All right. Okay. So should we give a few minutes and then start? 1 or 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to let you know that Pradeep has requested a few more labels. So if you go to his dictionary, did he update them? This is the copy one. Just go to the original one. The original copy of Reboot RX. Yeah. He told me that he's added a couple more.
Oh, yes, there's quite a lot actually. Okay. So what I would suggest is for everyone who has joined the call, could you please open the dictionary also on your side? So when you are, we'll go one by one. We can, whoever wants to nominate himself or herself to do the annotation here on my screen, I can do the annotation, but I think it would be helpful if you can open the dictionary also so that you can see it on your side. I opened it here as well on the right hand side of my screen. Um, so that's
Okay, because can you go down? I just want to see how many he added more.
yeah,
32. How many did he add?
there is quite a lot here. So if I
They
look at
added,
the previous one second, let me just see the
it was
previous.
until event P.
Yeah, so it's 31 and now it's come to 43.
And he's made some notes, so I want to go and see what he wrote there.
So 12 more.
So he added per this thing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So he was going to add complete response, partial response, no response. So he says you can ignore stable disease and other variant of responses of progressive disease if needed. Yeah, we can stable disease rate now. We don't even know what that means now.
So, I mean, it's actually kind of getting more and more difficult because, the more tags, the more data you need to annotate, right? I mean,
Yeah.
That's exactly what I told him.
It's sort of getting out of hand now. So,
Yeah.
Sambit, what is the agenda for this session? It's mainly for the annotation part, right?
Yeah. So what we will do is we will open up the abstracts and we'll go do one by one annotation, just, to
Okay.
get a feel of it. So, yeah.
So, I mean, for the first 5 minutes, can we just discuss? I mean, if anybody has any comments on what's happening so far, and I mean, from in general, from high level from the annotation perspective, is if it's getting difficult for people and how is it, so that we can let Reboot RX know accordingly, right? Because, like for example, like just looking at this, I think it's getting more difficult now. Not just from annotation, but from an entire modeling perspective as well, given that there are so many labels.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So should we just give it a start and see how we go on the abstract annotation?
I think everything will come out, right? What people have started, see what people have done so far is they've gone and annotated some stuff in the test layout, right? And based on that, they have asked many questions to Pradeep and Reboot RX, and they've got some responses back. So with that knowledge in hand, let's see how we annotate, how difficult it sounds. And then we can try to go back to them with that feedback, right? Hey, there's something, can we try to do something else, right?
Okay. Because I mean, one thing that I was thinking of that we would have to do it in, like multiple iterations, in the sense that we'll have to take a subset of these tags and start with those and, annotate a lot of documents with that subset. Let the modeling team actually start with that subset and, come with the first model. Meanwhile, y'all can always go. I mean, I'm not sure about the label box logistics for that, where, let's say the document is already annotated, but you can add more tags to it. I'm guessing that's possible, or we'll make it possible. But see, the idea
but
is that
once it's annotated, let's say you had 5 tags in there, and if you annotated all the 5 tags, then and you have to submit it. So once it's submitted, it's gone. So out of the data set. You can go back and manually delete the annotation and come back and redo it with a new set, but then you'll delete the rest, the previous ones as well.
You cannot update, like, I mean, add more tags.
You can always add more tags.
Yeah.
But you cannot then add it on the data that's already annotated and gone away, right? So let's say you've annotated 5 tags and you add 5 more.
Okay.
So once you've annotated it, it goes into the annotated list, right? And then you go in and add 5 tags in the label box again, and you cannot recall that annotated list back. You'll have to go in there and say delete the tags that are there, and then it'll go back to the original data set.
So I mean, there's no update policy. Like you have annotated 5 tags and you have to update and add 5 more.
We can try it here and check it.
Okay. I mean, that is something we'll have to sort of, work out in like maybe a separate meeting or, discuss about how to go about that. But the idea is, that I don't think it's going to be possible to do 31 or 43 tags, do even 20 tags, in fact, and then do, like 200 documents for that, right? And actually, technically, we'll need like 500 to 1,000 data sets annotated, given that there are so many labels. If there were, let's say, 5 labels, then even like 300 to 400 would have been like a good number. But the way this is increasing, and also how domain specific this is, I was saying that, first 5 minutes, can we spend some time to see which are the tags, like sort of, creating a ranking order of these tags, so that we know that, okay, these tags we can like start tagging these definitely, and then go towards, the low priority or rather the more difficult ones.
But Tanmay, we need to tag the ones which are important, right? Because then how will the model, what use will it be to the modeling group? Right?
No. So this is like an iteration. So first iteration, we are like sure we can get these tags, come to that sort of MVP. And then obviously like all these tags are maybe important from Reboot's perspective, but also from an ease of tagging, because they are asking us to tag and we are not really domain experts, right? So, considering all that and like coming to a balance point somewhere.
Okay, let's see how we go. So let's tag a few, and then we can just work out some logistics here live also, right? We can just add one more and just go back and see what it looks like. So everybody is aware of what it takes to do this kind of work, right? And they become more aware of, not to skip things, or make sure you tag them properly or get it clarified or something. So I think, yeah, you can start.
Yeah. So anyone wants to nominate to go first with the labeling? I will just start.
Yeah, Likita, I know you can update the tags. You can update the labels. That's not the problem. The problem is what happens to the already annotated data. If we add the tags and we have to go read.
Yeah, that we will check that part.
We can quickly do a quick check. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll check that. So let me go first, and then whoever wants to go and do the annotation, you just volunteer yourself, and then we can continue that. So for in this case, this part doesn't need to be annotated. This is just coming out from what Nisrin has done. So this is the ID. If you ever have a problem, and that's why we have just created the ID, so that we can ask that question to Reboot. The primary drug.
But 1 minute, Samvit, you have to put a tag for ID. So please go and tag the ID.
I'm sorry?
People have to annotate the ID number. I've put a tag for PMID.
Nishin, we won't need that because you have put that yourself, right? Every abstract will have, like, we are sure, that it will have that second number will always be the PMID, right?
No. So this is a manipulation. The abstracts doesn't have the PMID.
Correct. But you have added that PMID in the beginning, right?
I added it. I added the title and I added the PMID to the abstract, and then I imported it.
Exactly. So we don't need to annotate it because we know that it's always going to be there in the first part, like that.
I was just thinking that later on, if you want to tie in some analyses to a PMID.
Yeah. We can always do that, but we don't need like a label box annotation for that, is what I'm saying. That we can always do rule based also very easily. Like the second number we know is the PMID, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should I remove it?
No.
I just want to make it easy.
You can remove the tag. You can remove the tag in like from as in a label, but we can get that annotated later on also. That's not a problem.
Okay, because I thought it might be important to tie it back, whatever we find, to a PMID abstract or something, or to go back to a reference. That's why I was trying to do it.
Yes, we'll be able to do that. We'll still be able to do that.
Okay, so can we just update our guidelines while we're going through? So can one of you please update the guidelines?
Can somebody take notes?
It's, I'll just share this link in our team chat. So I've just shared the link. So if you can just update it, that will be absolutely great. That we don't need to update tag PMID here. So okay.
I will remove it so it doesn't need to be told.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So in any case, if we kind of identify further guidelines, we'll just update that.
Sure.
Cool. So right. So the drug name is this one. So this doesn't need to be annotated at this particular point. This is the actual abstract. So it starts from purpose. So if we go through this, TMO is a major complication. Study was to investigate the effects of treatment. Looks like this, but generally I found that after reading the article, it's better than to come back and annotate. So sometimes it's two treatments grouped into one. So in this case, it's this looks to be one category for the prevention of bleeding, materials and method. This study was a prospective, double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial. Patients with randomly assigned to receive oral. So this is containing the primary drug or placebo. So in this case, because of the order, I would go and annotate this first. And then this one will be placebo, will be the second one. And then the drug group, because this one contains the primary one, I'll annotate this as primary, the drug group. Question for you, Tanmay, from a modeling point, because you have this hat from that side, we don't need to annotate this 30 mg and all that, right? It's enough. These two words, is that enough?
Yes. I mean, see, that is slightly a domain thing where it depends on, the Reboot, how they would sort of use the labeling. For example, if we tell them that we found lansoprazole, like, are they then going to go into the abstract later on, to find out, okay, how much of it was used or whatever? I mean, from the way I see it, they'll definitely actually go and analyze it further anyways, right? Like they'll tomorrow sort of see actual quantities. So we don't really, But if somebody annotates it also, it's okay, is what I think.
So there was a question about this drug group, right? So you got group 1 and group 2, but the drug group is basically, are you just doing the primary drug as a drug group, or is it primary and the secondary is a drug group? So I didn't quite understand about the drug group stuff, because somebody actually annotated both the entire line from not oral lansoprazole or whatever, and up to daily. And they call that as a drug group. So I don't think, right? The drug group is the treatment group containing the drug in the data sheet.
Yeah, there is some comment from even Pradeep also. He said, like, we have to use drug group and control.
So the drug group is actually the lansoprazole, right? Not group 1.
But in this case, there is two groups of treatments, isn't it? This one and placebo.
Okay.
You are treating patients on this particular drug and or placebo. So there are two groups here. And one of them is also the drug group because it contains the primary drug. That's what I understood.
And then why annotate it as drug group and group 1 is what
so the question here is, the answer to that is, if you go to this particular, where is that? The validation data set, that is where you can see that differentiation. So when this validation data set was created, you can see those kind of samples. There is duplication there also, where you see the drug 1, and then you'll see the drug C. Can you see this one here?
Yeah.
See, this is how they have also filled up as an example.
Okay.
Okay, so and even the team 2, the way they are annotating from the tables, you will see those examples here. The way they have group 1, then they are identifying that also as drug group because the primary drug is listed in there.
Okay.
Hi, this is Maria.
Somebody has a...
Sandeep, you're correct because that's what Pradeep has said. I've been following this whole discussion, but it's very confusing to people, I think. And maybe there are people who are going to be annotating who aren't here right now. So I don't know how we need to just like make this instruction really, really clear for people, because I think it's still confusing.
Okay. Sambit, one doubt. So let's say even the second group would have contained a drug. You would have marked the whole thing as drug group. Is it correct?
No.
No.
So yeah, sorry, Maria, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's clearly like it's still confusing. So in the abstract, there's a drug. Can you scroll up in the abstract you're showing right now? Right, so the drug is, you can see it on the third line, it says drug name, lansoprazole. So that was information that came from the spreadsheets with the primary data. We've added that into these to annotate. So we label group 1, that's the group that's first named in the trial. Group 2 is the group that appears second in the abstract. And then one of these might be the drug group. So you just have to like find the one that has the same name as the drug that's given, and you label that again as the drug group.
Okay, but in that case, isn't that repetitive information? So we already know the drug group, and it can be one of group 1 and group 2. Then why are we exactly annotating that?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
This is yeah.
Because now I see that the lesser the tags, the better. So maybe we can put this question to Pradeep as well. Maybe by today or tomorrow, that can we skip this tag because it's like repetitive information.
Yeah,
like,
and then
in the final table, we can always do post-processing and add that column in the table, and then put the information there. Yeah.
Well, from a modeling standpoint, it doesn't make any sense, right? Yeah, maybe they want it separate, but from a modeling standpoint, we just need one, and we can always repeat it as add it as another column, right? Also, copy and add.
To add.
Yeah.
To that,
So, sorry, someone is saying something.
I wanted to add to that drug group label. So why we are annotating is because we don't know the drug that you're interested in. Is it in group 1 or
You cut out Praful. I think what he's saying is that we don't know whether the primary drug is in group 1 or group 2. So that's why they're annotating the drug group, so that you know that the drug group is in group 1.
Yeah, also, exactly. Nishreen, in some scenarios, along with a primary drug, we will be using combinations. Say, for example, in this, lansoprazole plus placebo is coming as group 1. Then we have to annotate that combination as drug group, right?
Sorry. So this one, in this case, we have basically, two types of treatments happening. Either they receive this treatment or they have a placebo. So these are two different groups.
Yeah, in this it is clear, Sambit, but in some scenarios we will be having combination, not this one exactly. Yes. But in that case, in the group 1, we will be having 2 drugs, the combination of lansoprazole and other drug. Then we have to mark the entire thing as drug group, right?
Correct. And you can see that in the example here. If you look at the right hand side, validation data, how the team has done the validations indexing already. You'll see multiple drugs in group 1, but because they have the primary drug, which is thalidomide, that becomes your drug group. And to add to what Nishreen is saying, I also heard Pradeep that this abstract might not even contain the primary drug. In that case, the drug group will be null, blank. You will have 2 groups of treatment, but because the primary drug is not listed, the drug group will not be annotated. And that will happen, according to Pradeep, he said it will be a very small chance, but there will be at least 10 to 15% probability that happens.
But if you look at the validation data, all they are putting in that drug group column and they are just saying group 1. Now, what does that mean? So that means it's a repetition of the group 1 column, right?
Yeah. So in this case, they have listed group 1, but to someone was already mentioning this, that thalidomide could also be existing in group 2, not group 1. So then the drug group will become group 2, not group 1 in this case.
Got it. But then again, I see it as a rule-based thing, right? If whatever I see in drug, if I see it in group 1, I mark drug group as group 1. If I see it in group 2, I mark it as group 2. But I don't see how annotation helps there. Like,
that's
I don't
fine.
think it should be annotated. Yeah.
If you agree to, if you can do that, then we can remove that annotation here. I agree. Yeah. So are we okay to remove drug group then from the labels?
I think we should check with.
Just put it there. Yeah, we should put it somewhere and then just speak to Pradeep. Whatever comes out of today's meeting.
Okay, to avoid confusion here, I'll remove the drug group for the time being. And if someone is just taking the note, that would be amazing. You know, just to say that we'll check.
Is somebody taking notes?
Yeah, Nishreen, I'm taking it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so to move forward, let's review this. The primary endpoint was the occurrence of this bleeding, and the secondary endpoints, overall survival. Okay, results. So study initially planned with 394 patients. Okay, overall one. Okay, so this clearly looks like is the total sample size. And now there's been discussion whether we should annotate 394 or 394 patients. And we were just chatting before the meeting that if we randomize or add both options, will that help the model, or should we just stick to 394 always, or 394 patients always? So there are 3 options here. Tanmay, do you have any specific guideline, or should we just stick to, you know, annotating 394 patients?
So, I mean, what had happened is, I remember you had given one example where it wasn't always saying patients, right? Like, because of some long sentence. In that case, just annotating the number would definitely be, you know, useful. But in this specific example, I think the number should be 127 that should be annotated, just to go a bit this thing, because it says that, you know, although it started with 394, prematurely ended. So I remember this discussion happened with Pradeep, but I don't remember what was the final conclusion there. Do we include 394 or 127 in such cases?
Akash this side. So basically in the validation data, when we were doing that, we included it as 127 in the analysis as the total sample.
So you included 127 patients or 127 number?
The number 127. Basically in the validation
I don't think
data,
we need to do patients, right? Because somebody might call it people, or somebody might call it something else, and it'll throw again something off.
Correct. Yeah, that's
They might not be consistent in calling them patients, right? They might call, I don't know, whatever. They might call them something. So it's just better to do it a number.
Yeah, they might even say the sample size was like that. You know, somebody might even say it that way. Yeah.
So
all right,
let's keep it number, make it simple and just do numbers.
All right. So are you able to see my screen? I have just annotated the G1N and the G2N also in the meantime. Number of patients in both groups. What else there? So during the median follow-up of 6 months, tumor bleeding rates, follow-up of 6.4 months, tumor bleeding 7.8, and so this looks to me like a response, because this is like collecting reactions. This is how I understand from the abstract. So I would probably go somewhere and search for what's the response, how to track that. And now there's the complication, because Pradeep has expanded this variable labels to track complete response, partial response, and those ones. So let me just please open, bear with me. I have lost that file. Where did that go? 1 second.
It's the Reboot RX. It's in your tab, I think, already open.
Yeah, I opened the previous version, so it's confusing. Okay, so So we initially had this one variable which contained everything, all types of responses, but now Pradeep is suggesting that we have this kind of different types of labels.
Can you add 2 columns in this, Sambit?
You mean in this column?
Yeah, like add 2 columns here. So one column I feel is where we'll add this sort of difficulty level or something like that, like mark a color for some things that might be dicey to figure out, and like green for those that are easy to figure out. For example, we found out that group 1, group 2, and the number of patients is so far straightforward, right? So these can always be tagged in the abstracts. So something like 2 columns, and then the second column will be, do we need to annotate it or will it be a post-processing tag? For example, number of arms is a post-processing tag because we can figure it out later how many arms are there. It won't be in the abstract.
There is a complication there also, Tanmay. There can be multiple groups in this abstract, but we are only annotating 2 groups. So the number of arms, the way you will calculate is probably, I don't know how you will calculate the number of arms.
I have a radio button. Hello. I have a radio button which will tell you have to actually manually put in the number of arms.
Yeah. See, that is fine, but I'm thinking see this. Then we are mixing 2 things, right? One is that we are doing NER modeling here. The other is that we are doing this. What you're saying, looking at the whole abstract and giving one number finally. We won't be able to combine both the things. So I mean, so the way I see it is, again, if you can put those 2 columns, we can just see which one comes a part of an NER and which one comes of these sort of things, like for this radio button or something like, post-processing checks after looking at the abstract or after looking at the annotations. Those sort of different calculations will come in part of that. In that column, we'll mark those tags so that we come to know which tags need to be annotated and which tags we do not need to annotate.
Okay, so are we okay if I make a copy, because I don't have edit access?
We'll have to make a copy. Yeah.
So let's read through this thing. So there are 2 tumor bleeding response rates of 7.8 and 9.5% in both in the Lanzapron and the placebo group respectively. Okay, so this is the group 1 response rate was 7.8 and group 2 response rate was 9.5.
Yeah. So ideally we could have used
G1 response rate
and G2
7.8, right? And then G2 would be response rate would be 9.5.
So sorry, Tanmay. So are we saying we will flag these ones?
Yes. Based on whatever experience we've had so far, whatever is becoming difficult to find, just flag it so that we can discuss with Pradeep, and from a modeling perspective also, we at least we know which tags will always come and how much data can be annotated with that many tags at least.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So are we all okay to tag these as G1 response rate and G2 response rate? Are we clear? This part.
But we may have to, in here, we may have to do the percentage sign because you don't know how they will.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yep. Respectively, with the cumulative bleeding incidence not statistically different between the groups. So statistically different between the groups. No, so there is a variable which tracks. So I have a feeling that this is the variable that tracks the p-value for comparing event rates. Or maybe it's not. Let's see what all the variables are there.
But there's another great.
Maybe this one.
P-value for comparing response rates.
What does the group think? Because I feel this is a response, bleeding incidence.
Yeah, that is fine. But the p-value, it goes with where? So
It should be response underscore P, no?
Yeah, we can put that, and let's take the sample back to Pradeep when we after we finish, saying, hey, do you think we did this right? So yeah, do it as 0.515.
Yeah, it is getting recorded, so we will share the video with him and he can go through it.
Yeah, but he may not have the time to go through it, right? So we can just take a screen capture of this one.
Yeah, we can. We'll take it.
Okay, let's
what
continue.
Else is there? However, during the initial 4 placebo treatment, patients develop tumor bleeding. Okay. Right. Okay. So if 4 people have responded to the G2, I have a feeling that this is the label that we could annotate, which is G2 underscore N response. Number of patients responded in group 2.
Hi, sorry, maybe I've missed this. I've just woken up, so I'm a bit slow. But it seems like the response rate should be a good thing, right? It should be the response to the drug, whereas what you've tagged here is the tumor bleeding rates, which to me sounds like a bad outcome. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's the response rate we're looking for.
So the response could be positive or negative, right? So in this case, I don't think there is a positive response. Bleeding is a response. So did the bleeding stop, or did the bleeding, what do you call, develop? Whereas there were no bleeding events in the last promotion. Yeah.
Are we sure about that though, that the response rate can be good or bad?
Depends on what the abstract is about, right?
I think I get what Maria is saying, because some abstracts may present these numbers as a positive response, but then some abstracts would present it as a negative response. The problem with this would then be, if it is made in a data frame, the modeling people or even Pradeep won't know that these rates are a response for a positive or a negative occurrence in the drug.
Is there a tag for what the response is somewhere?
I'm not sure.
Do you mean a definition?
Yeah, let's say it says a tag for a response, right? And then you can say the response in this case is bleeding, right?
Yep.
Tumor bleeding.
I don't think there is. They're mostly rates.
Because that kind of gives you the sentiment, right? Is what you're saying.
Yep.
That kind of gives you a sentiment whether it expresses a positive thing or a negative response, right?
So I was just going through some of the descriptions that Pradeep has mentioned here for the responses, and in all of them he is suggesting that suggests cancer has completely disappeared or partially disappeared or not completely disappeared. Now, and then I'm thinking, what's the problem we are solving? We are solving a problem where alternative drugs have had some positive impact on the disease, right? That's what we want to study. So in this case, if Maria's point is valid, because then we should only track positive responses. But that's a question for Pradeep though.
No, but see, over here, what they are saying is tumor bleeding, right? So they are saying that there was no bleeding events in some of the treated patients, right? If you're saying, and 4 placebo treatment patients developed the tumor bleeding. So in this case, it's saying that the drug is effective.
Yeah.
So it is actually, even though it's the tumor bleeding itself is a negative connotation, the response was to the drug is positive, right? Because they treated and there was no bleeding in those patients who took the drug.
No, so exactly, and here the response rate is still a positive indicator. When you marked 7.8 and 9.5 as a response rate, that is still positive for the tumor bleeding rate. Because you consider 100 minus 7.8 and 100 minus 9.5 and then look at it that way. I mean, that will again be a post-processing thing. But from an annotation perspective, I think it's okay to mark them as response rates.
Right. So basically, bleeding events is actually positive in the sense that the tumor is getting impacted, which is what we want for the drug to be doing.
But
yeah.
would it
I don't think so, because if you look at the conclusions, they were trying to reduce bleeding.
Correct. So if you see 7.8, that is less bleeding than 9.5 in the placebo. That's why it's saying that when the people took that drug, there was a 7.8% tumor bleeding rate, whereas when they did not take it, it was 9.5%.
No, I see. I just don't know how the model is going to distinguish between like this and a case where you want a higher number for the response rate for the drug.
So let me ask people who have gone through more than a few abstracts. Do they all show up like this, the response rates, or are they? It depends on how they also put it up in the abstract, right? Do they all report in a similar way, or they report in different ways? Because then it may be very difficult to kind of assess what exactly is going on. So maybe we'll go through one more sample and see what they say, right? Yeah, but good. Let's note this point for Pradeep then.
Yeah, we will in any case take a screenshot of this entire abstract, okay, for him to review, so that we will understand whether we are on the right track.
Can I like whatever abstracts I have come across in the validation data, they have actually given the overall response rate in the abstract. So they mention the overall response rate is this much percent and this percent. So there might be some other abstracts for the other drugs too, but this is from my point of view.
But Akash, have you always seen a negative connotation or positive connotation? Like in this case, they're talking about tumor bleeding, right? So, so that's what we're trying to assess, that will it always be reported in this way with respect to tumor bleeding or some other negative effect of cancer, right? Are we always talking about a reduction rate in the worst? Let's say the tumor bleeding is as somebody was saying is a factor of 100%, and they're always talking in terms of reduction from that point, or are we talking as improvement from a null point? So it depends on which direction you're going.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Not sure.
Yeah, let's look at and we can always clarify with Pradeep also. He was wanting to be here, but I told him the time, and he's like, I'll be thinking about other things in my sleep. So it's 2 a.m. for him on the East Coast. So.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can organize another session, maybe if the group wants, with him, because these are clearly domain related questions. So it would be helpful.
Okay. Let's continue.
All right. So can I annotate 4 as the G2N response? Number of patients.
Is it response or is it number of patients? Yeah.
So that would be G2N.
Or is it G1N? Oh, placebo. Yeah.
Okay. Whereas there were no bleeding events in the treated patients. So
that means, do we have to then infer this intuitively, because we know the total number of patients and we know the 4 were treated with placebos? Oh, okay.
Actually, again, this is tricky because the response is 63 minus 4, right? I mean, we need to just understand what they want in G1N response. Or, then it becomes a lot of, we need to think about post-processing where, you just tag everything that you find, negative or positive, and then in post-processing, we'll see, how we need to go, depending on if it deviated from the 50% it went up or 50% went down, and accordingly, we'll have to perform a subtraction rule, that kind of a thing. But yeah, I mean, just something to note.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
What's the next thing?
I did not see a label for annotating this part here, which is to do with there was no bleeding events for the group 1 study. There was a probability value here, so I don't see any of such labels that we can for group 1.
So there are a couple of other P's, right? P for comparing overall survival time. P for comparing progression-free survival time.
Is this RCT abstract? This is an RCT abstract, Sambit?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yes, these are all RCT abstracts.
Okay.
Sorry, I mean, I think we might be getting the response rate wrong here, but if it was the response, the tumor bleeding, wouldn't the P there be the response P? The 0.041.
The response P, Maria, based on the explanation here, is P value for comparing response rate. So it is actually comparing between both groups. That's what I understood, because it's a comparison. And so that's the reason why we put this as response P, because it was comparing between two groups.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
A good question there. So then I think I'm here. So the OS is the survival. Survival. Is it survival? Yeah. So it's survival.
Overall survival.
Overall survival. Yeah. Between drug 1 and drug 2 are not statistically different. So this one, I'm just trying to see which one is the appropriate level. OSP for comparing overall.
G1 median OS.
Yeah. It doesn't mention. There is no mention of median. So
yeah, it's not a median. But yeah.
Okay, that's a good thing, right? So I was also thinking about something else, and this also came up. So let's do it this way, right? Why not tag in a slightly dumb way, which means of course we need to modify these tags, and we'll of course let Pradeep know that we are doing this. Which means that if you think that there are these abstract, for example, now only we've come to this, right? That the median is not mentioned. If you do not want to focus on that right now, why not just annotate the way we see it? For example, think of a tag G1 OS, not G1 median OS, right? And tag wherever we see G1 OS, okay? And then in post-processing, we'll see if we can actually figure out if it's a median or not. But from a tagging perspective, why not just tag if we see G1 OS, then mark it as G1 OS? And I was actually thinking about the other thing of p-value as well. Why not tag all p-values that we find in the abstract, right? Rather than putting a different thing of event p, response p, because from this abstract also, it's already confusing for us whether it's an event p or a response p, right? And different abstracts will have different thing, right? So why not just tag all p-values irrespective of event or response?
Tanmay, and then how do we tie it back to the context, Tanmay?
But then that's the double sword, right? You don't, even if you tag it, tomorrow you don't know whether you're right or wrong. So your model will also be right or wrong. So you anyways don't know whether what you have tagged is right or wrong, right? The number of tags are increasing, the model's confidence rate, confidence value for whatever it's tagging is going to it's going to reduce, right? So if we want to increase our confidence level, we need to make the annotations simpler for the model. Of course, from a domain perspective, we'll have to do post-processing later on and have more headaches later on, but at least we'll be confident about what the model has annotated, right? In the sense that just going very simple, right? For example, in NER, if I would have said tag all proper nouns, okay, then the model is going to be simpler. The model is going to be able to tag proper nouns. But if I say, I want to tag all precedents in the abstract, it's going to be difficult for the model to understand Trump, Modi are precedents, and so let it tag proper nouns, and then we'll see some post-processing and extra things to figure out whether it's Trump or Modi or something like that. But I mean, this is again a point to discuss with Pradeep. In what ways can we simplify these tags and then figure out about post-processing in later iterations?
Okay, Tanmay. So I think there is also a limitation that we can only select from this list. So when you say tag it in a different name, we
we changed the tag after talking to Pradeep.
Yeah, so we have to then arrive at a simpler list out of this
Correct.
thing, and then
Yes.
we only use those ones.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I was
I
asking you
think
to
we
add
need to sit
columns
with
there.
him, go through each and every tag, and say which one we can simplify. Yeah, because otherwise I need this in front of me in order to tag anything, right? I have to refer to this in order to understand.
Can I add something? Tanmay,
Sure.
yeah. So when you say we will tag all the p-values, what happens is that in some of the abstract, there are a lot of p-values, as in there are around 5 to 6 p-values. So they give p-values for some of the patients who have actually positively, responded to the drug, and who were not, who did not positively responded to that. And there are other p-values too. So don't you think it would be a bit confusing when you tag all the p-values in that way?
No, see, I mean, like I said, right? Of course, from Reboot's perspective, like the end goal, it is confusing, but we need to go step by step, right? First, we need to identify p-values, correct? So, I mean, see, it is debatable, and that's why I'm saying, I'm not saying that we need to do it this way. We need to actually talk to Pradeep and see what sort of a simplification we can create in these tags. P-value is just one of the examples for that. So that, for example, there's a PPS p-value, there's an OS p-value, there is a response p-value, there are already 4 over here, right? But not all abstracts, and it's going to be really confusing. So can we reduce this into let's say 2 p-values, right? Maybe response and event, we just make it some simpler p tag, and the OS and PPS, we make a simpler p tag. We need to just discuss this with Pradeep, and because I'm sure when he started with this, he must have thought that, okay, again, when he looks at it, I'm sure he will be able to fill the whole thing, right? But it's we who are tagging it. We also need to consider that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue and see what other things we come up with.
Okay,
Sorry, just a comment on the median OS. Maybe one thing to ask is, I don't know if by convention, if an OS is provided in an abstract, maybe it's the median, and that's just like a domain convention. So, we should find that out.
Okay, good point. Are we done with this one, Samit, or we still have to continue?
I think we are done.
So, Sambit, we can tag that G1 median OS for now, right? At least we'll come to know if it's right or wrong after Pradeep checks it. The 11.7 and the 11.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And can you just screenshot that one as well to share in the group?
I will be doing that.
And G2 median OS would be 11, right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, so let me send that now as a screenshot so you have it. Okay. Yeah, I have sent it now to all of you. I'll just click submit, and do we want to do another one?
Yeah, you can submit it. Yeah. I mean, I cannot, this is just a test one, right? So it's fine.
Okay, cool. Does anyone wants to volunteer to do this one?
Nobody? Priya, Roberto.
It's just a very informal chat. So we can, one of you can go ahead. There's no problem. We are only chatting about stuff.
I'm just scrolling down. Sorry. I'm not picking on people. Just feel free to chime in.
Okay. No worries. In the interest of time, let me start. All right. So this part here till this part is, we are avoiding it, but we know that the primary drug is this one. We can go through the content. The survival of patients with active cancer. Okay, survival data are examined post patients with solid tumors who have access to data or critical file. Okay, so for 6 months in a multi-center open randomized control trial. Okay, so this one is our group 1. If someone doesn't agree, just call out. Okay, this one.
And this coumarin derivative or whatever, right?
Yeah,
is the second one.
Cause mortality at 12 months. All cause mortality at 12 months was compared. All cause mortality was compared between treatment groups in patients with effect on survival was compared to between the 2 patient subgroups during the 12-month follow-up. 356 of 602 patients with solid tumors and acute died. Okay, so
we do not have any tag for disease, is it? Like, because the diseases are different in all abstracts.
Yeah, no, they don't care about disease.
No, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, fine.
I think they have taken cancer abstract, so.
Yeah, but still
various kinds of cancers.
Yeah. So among which the probability of sequence solid tumors and acute. Okay. So let me
group 1N,
read this
group 2N.
I don't think this was group 1N. That's why I'm trying to read again. Instead, the influence on survival data was in patients with solid tumors. Okay, so analysis was done on patients with solid tumors and this who were randomly assigned. So I have a feeling this one will be G1. This one will be sample size, because the abstract is saying they only studied patients with active cancer and acute venous. It says survival data were examined in analysis for patients with solid tumors and thrombolism. And here it says 356 with solid tumors and ventolism died. So I feel this will be a sample size, but again.
Right. No, I think that's right. Total sample size.
Yeah, and 356 will be G1N event.
How did you identify that, Tanmay?
It's the row 27, right, on the right. It says row 26, number of patients with the death event in group 1.
Yeah, but how did you know that this is group 1?
Oh, okay, group 1. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, that's a confusing thing.
Yeah, it is a split between G1 and G2 is what I think. 356.
Like a total thing?
Yeah. Total patients from both groups died.
Okay. So we don't have any tag for that again, is it?
Yeah, no, we don't. Among patients with the probability of death at 12 was 20%. Okay, so probability of death at 12% was 20%. So this one, there is an event rate death, and there were some questions in the group. Some people were asking about this. So I have a feeling that we could mark this as G1 event death, but the problem is the confusing part is the text. It says overall event other than death, but the label has in brackets death. So it's very confusing for me. I don't know what you think.
Let's clarify that with him, number 25. But right now, why don't you put it as death?
Yeah, I will. I'll just G1 event death.
So this was group 1, right? Dalteparin is group 1.
Yeah, it is. As compared to 36% in the oral anticoagulant group. Right. What is the oral? So this is
the second one,
that
right?
That is the second one.
Coumarin.
So now we have hazard ratio. Okay, so these are a probability of death. Okay, so this one, wow, this is interesting, isn't it?
E of 0.02.
I think, right. Response rates? Did you say response rate? Hazard ratio is 0.5. What is hazard ratio for survival time? Okay, so this one is OSHR. Do we agree with that? This part.
Overall survival hazard ratio.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
No, not that. Sorry, not that one. Sorry, it is Yeah, OS, yeah, hazard ratio. Ratio
Yeah.
is a fraction, isn't it?
Overall survival. Yeah.
Sorry, Maria, you had a question or you were not sure?
So the P.03, isn't that the event P?
Sorry. No. I was saying that this would be the OS underscore HR, which is hazard ratio for survival time.
I mean, I just don't know about that one.
Because 2 lines after that, there's another hazard ratio. How do you actually get that?
Okay. Yep. So
in fact, it's talking about some other metastatic cancer.
Sorry. So this is actually saying the probability of death, and this is okay. Let's keep reading then. Patients with
okay. So this the above one is without metastatic cancer, and then they talk about with metastatic cancer. What does metastatic mean? Any idea?
Yeah, it means that cancer has spread to other parts of your body from where it originated.
Okay.
Okay, so then we cannot tag them as G1 and G2 because they are split between both, isn't it? So we can't tag this as G1. Okay, so this is death. The probability of death was then no difference in mortality between those. Okay, so there is death in both the groups. So in this case, I don't think we can annotate it, isn't it?
But these two groups are not like the drug groups. These are like two groups of patients with and without, which is like a different kind of group here.
Yeah. That's why it's confusing. Yes.
So it is that case, where we have to add 2 things later on, or whatever. So I think it's that case where we are discussing, Pradeep, where there could be 2. It like basically split, and in post processing we'll have to see whether we need to add or subtract, which means you'll have to mark both of them with the same tag over here.
But there is a P at the bottom, yeah.
This one we can say
is the event P, right? Because it's comparing to
survival. Sorry, this is survival, isn't it?
No, but look at the 31 event P, right? Overall survival.
I would say this is survival because it says observed on survival was statistically different between patients with or without. So this is with or without disease, not the drug. So it's actually talking about the survival rate of this drug, group 1.
Yeah. Do we have a tag for that?
No.
Group 1 OS.
Right. So is it like G1?
No, we don't have G1 specific survival probability.
But they have a median OS. No. Would that do?
That is the time. That is not probability.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I don't think our tags cover this case where they're comparing the 2 types of cancer rather than the 2 groups.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least in the part in the bracket, right, the hazard ratio parts, I think we are supposed to tag both of them with the same tag. Like both the hazard ratios need to be tagged with the same thing, both the CIs, both the Ps, with the same tag. And then in post-processing, we'll have to basically see what needs to be done with them.
So you do a double tagging?
Yes. But I'm not sure what you tag it with, like as in the Ps are OSPs or event Ps or response Ps, but it'll have to be tagged as the same thing. What does CI mean, Maria? Any idea?
Confidence interval.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But we don't have do we have a tag for that?
No, we don't need to tag that.
Oh, we don't need to tag that. Okay.
I will just do it. Whatever. I think we can review this with Pradeep.
Yeah.
But I feel this is hazard ratio for survival between both groups. 95% confidence interval labeling is not there. So I don't think we can label this.
Only the Ps and HR is there, right?
Ps also we don't have for both groups. It is just one probability for overall. You can see, and then there's another one here. But these are overall probabilities.
What about the event? Yeah, or event P.
We don't have event specific or P values.
For the hazard ratio, I guess what's throwing me is that the definition says hazard ratio for overall survival time, and it's not comparing times like in other examples where you had the OS in months. Here it's comparing rates of death at 12 months. So I don't know if it's something else than the OSHR.
So there is a time here which is saying 12 months.
Yes, but you know, like in the other examples, it had, for example, 11 months versus 11.6 months.
Yeah.
And here, what it's comparing is not, you know, it's not comparing like 12 months to 11 months. It's comparing the rates at 12 months for both. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Compared to hazard.
They're checking at 12 months what was the situation in the group, and then they're reporting that.
Right. So I'm not sure if that translates to the same kind of measure as we've seen before for the hazard ratio. We can just ask that, but that would be a question mark for me.
I think, yeah, I mean, in any case, we are going to ask the question for that entire abstract here. We'll take a screenshot and ask.
Yeah.
It is more to understand what we can come up with so that he can then review it and then let us know.
Yeah. I think there's like a big group of abstracts where they're comparing outcomes, but not for the two drugs, like for different types of cancers or different types of characteristics in the patients that had the cancer. And we still haven't really figured out how to deal with that.
Are you talking about
do you have a PMID that we can look up quickly?
Let me see if I can find that. So, I mean, it's like this example, right? Where at the end you have like the two results groups that you're comparing. And probably if you had the full study, they would report all the statistics. But since we just have the abstract, it's a little bit more complicated. Let me see if I can find another example.
All right. In the meantime, I have just annotated this one as the overall survival probability across both groups.
Just one thing that I'm that I'm getting here is that, see, I mean, our models are not really going to be like super intelligent, right? Which means that the more complicated cases that we find and tag, then after doing this, even if we tag like a lot of documents, our model will still not perform well, right? Because you see that there is a lot of intricacies involved in these p-values, and they are like to be understood rather interpreted rather than the text telling us that it's like that. Which means even if a BERT model is super smart, is looking at things before it, after it, is looking at those words, is still not going to be able to interpret at the level that we are interpreting these things, right? And that begs the question as to how much now we need to actually go to Pradeep and say, can we simplify these tags? Because we need to see at a first step of what we need to annotate. Like, of course, the domain importance and that can come later as to which p-value is this or what does this p-value do. But can we first figure out p-values in the first case? Can we just start with that? Is what we need to now check with Pradeep, I feel.
But we can do that without the annotation, right? As you're saying, I mean, we can just search through the documents, and it's clearly stated that how the p-values are written up in the document. So we can just go and extract the p-values and the context around it, right?
I mean, you're saying like do some sort of regex and things like that?
Yeah.
But I mean, I've seen different ways of mentioning the p-values. I mean, here I see that it's like that p equal to that, but there can be different ways of mentioning that, I guess. Some people actually say that
that's the rules that we'll have to build up, right?
Sort of. But I mean, see, like p-value is one example, but all those different sort of things, right? HR and I don't know, there are many other complicated cases that I'm seeing now, right? So that's the only thing. I mean, like, of course, we'll have to consider Pradeep's opinion, because possibly, we could, if not bring everything down to a p-value, maybe simplify something like, maybe response and event are considered as some sort of p tag, right? Something basically that makes our thing simpler. And again, model training also simpler.
All right. Have we taken the notes here for actions to discuss with?
Yeah, Samvit.
Okay.
Yeah. I have one more point regarding
taking a note.
Excellent.
Yeah, Nishlin, like I have some more point regarding p-value, because I remember Pradeep answering for one of the question, like when we are talking about p-value, it is always a comparison between the drugs which we are talking. So if some p-value we found which is comparing between a diseases, like in this case p equal to 0.02. No need of capturing all those things. We have to only capture p-values which compare between the drugs.
But here we are not even. Are we comparing between the drugs?
This
is just the observed effects of dalteparin, which is one drug, right? And it's saying.
Yes, so in that case, like no need of annotating it with OSP, I feel.
Okay. Yeah. Because most of it is drug related, right? Here we are talking patients with and without metastatic disease.
Yeah.
On dalteparin, right? So this is not a comparison between drugs.
I think we need to talk to Pradeep and find out an easier guideline, because we have if we talk about 3,000 abstracts and 10-15 people doing it, there will be subjectivity there. I don't think this kind of rule everyone will follow.
No, but this is
it's a bit.
Yeah, but I do mention this point in our meeting notes so that Pradeep can reiterate this.
Let's talk to him and suggest, okay, what kind of p-values do we need to capture at a minimum, and how that should be, like captured. What's the guideline there? So then we know what, value you have to capture.
Yeah, and one more thing regarding that event rate and response rate, which we have discussed earlier. I have pasted in the chat, and that is a response from Praveen for one of the question. Like event rate could be either positive or negative. Like it is not always the death rate. It could be survival rate as well. And while coming to the response rate, he is pointing it as a positive response only.
Yeah.
He's saying typically it will be a positive measure.
Yeah, correct, but positive, but the tumor is bleeding. Is it a positive response or negative response? That's the way where we are. We had a chat. So
yeah, it's definitely negative.
No. So the point was in that case that of course he needs from a domain he needs that final thing to be a positive outcome. But can we first start with whatever we are getting in this thing, and then the post processing do things like if that thing is a tumor bleeding rate, then do 100 minus that to actually give what Pradeep needs. That is the G1 positive rate. So that is something we need to discuss. And from an annotation perspective, do we still tag those things, because that just gives us more data points to explore.
Yeah. So look, I agree with Tanmay, because identifying whether it's a response is positive or a negative, you need domain knowledge. Like for me, I got confused easily. So I'm sure others will also get confused. So do we just track the response now and annotate that if we have a response, and then figure out later on? That's the question for Pradeep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually need to leave, but happy for you guys to continue. If you want to do another one, I can share the screen or give control.
I think I have to leave as well. It's pretty late, and I have a meeting in the morning. So I think it's a good. I think what we can conclude is we need to have him in a call with us and go through all the labels and come up with a simplification. We'll be honest with him and saying, hey, this will be very complex for the team to understand and go through, and there will be a lot of questions. It will be subjective. And then what are we building a model on, right? If everybody annotates in different ways and don't understand what they're doing. So we definitely do need to simplify it, right? So yeah, he's added about 42 is a lot, and very domain specific 42. It's not like a picture of a flower or a cat or a dog or something, right? Or whatever.
Yep, agree.
or like a sentence with those things. Yeah, these are quite complex medical terms. So we want to make sure we get it right? So.
Yep, completely agreed. Yeah.
All right, I'll share the recording, and we'll follow up based on the minutes with Pradeep. Maybe we'll need to organize another call, Nishrin, and we can talk to Pradeep with examples again. Similar meeting.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, Likita, just post. Once you have the meeting notes, you can post it.
Yeah, Nishrin.
And Sambit will post the recording, and we'll get that in front of Pradeep and ask him for a